With the advent of writing and mathematics, humanity's ascent took place at an accelerated rate. New cities emerged. New empires emerged. Humankind thrust toward the present. This is session 13, meaning, in a course titled Evolution of Consciousness, and that is central to a larger view, Evolution of Consciousness Theory. In this session, our journey carries us from the rise of civilization, to the turn in the universe's becoming, in which humankind is today embroiled, the threshold to meaning. Sumer, Babylon, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and ancient Rome, in the civilizations of China, Africa, the Indus Valley, and the New World, the human experience rose to new heights. In ancient Greece, we invented democracy, defined by Aristotle to mean, governance by the many, for the good of the many. Made cohesive by a network of roads, ancient Rome reached out to embrace the known world. 1800 years ago, we invented paper. 1100 years ago, we harnessed water power to drive the first simple industry. 700 years ago, we began the large-scale production of gunpowder, and engineered the earliest weapons, that allowed us to put its power to use. Through the Middle Ages, and the Renaissance, the human experience advanced. 400 years ago, Copernicus put forth the idea that the Earth revolved around the Sun. 300 years ago, Galileo founded the principles of the scientific method, and Newton put forth the principles of gravity and motion. In 1859, Charles Darwin published his On the Origin of Species, and humanity saw itself, and world, in terms of change over time. In 1905, Albert Einstein published his special theory of relativity. In 1913, Niels Bohr hypothesized his model of atomic structure. In 1925, Einstein published his general theory of relativity, and, by 1927, quantum mechanics had achieved a high degree of development. As humanity lifted itself out of the rubble of the First and Second World Wars, and reflected on the Cold War, it gazed on the uncertainty it had unleashed on itself with new eyes. Never again would we see the nation as isolated in the world, as protected by oceans and mountains. Never again would we identify with the beehive collectivity of the empire. Never again would we see ourselves as subservient to the whims of a ruler, subjects of a realm. As individuals, we took ourselves to be unique, autonomous beings of value, for no lesser reason than our humanity. Manifest in wars, politics, innovation, and a reshaping of societies, the creative process drives time and humanity forward. Uncertainty overwhelms, and the end of a prior social order becomes clear. Uncertainty falls away, to release the energy needed to thrust humankind to a more free, and open, social form. Over the course of civilization's ascent, social structure evolved from forms with less individual freedom, and more control by a ruling elite, to forms with more individual freedom, and less control by a ruling elite. With grand leaps forward, punctuated by periods of stagnation, the events of history mark a trend, the decline of the collective, and the rise of the individual. Today, our individuality, and the web of human awareness that is humanity's grasp of its place in the Earth's geopolitical landscape, manifests through a vast information industry, a pervasive media, educational, and communication network. We witness the cycles and thresholds, and the trial and error, of the human endeavor as they unfold. Our knowledge reaches out to embrace atomic, molecular, cosmic, and organic structure. We have probed the heavens, mapped the evolution of life, and deciphered the history of civilization. We have created the scientific and engineering framework we need to reshape our world in almost any way we imagine. As remarkable as humanity's progress in the noosphere has been, however, there is a dark side to the creative force. As individuals, and as societies, we seem loath to realize that civilization's ascent, and all that we know and experience, is the outcome of a greater evolution, an aspect of creation's transformation to a higher state of being. Its view limited to the external and the materialistic, science disregards the variable of consciousness. By doing so, it closes its eyes to the fundamental nature of creation. Can the universe be other than an evolution of consciousness? Science favors probing the universe with increasingly complex, and costly, mathematical, and experimental weapons. With each new assault, the barrier between internal and external strengthens, and the understanding that lies just beyond, seems all the more elusive. Anthropologists define religion as a shared system of beliefs. Typically, we associate this system of beliefs with a conceptualization of God. God and religion, however, are different things. God is what we experience, what we know in our hearts to exist. Is not God the creative entity that we have come to know as the universe? Is not God the force of existence that this course is devoted to understanding? Do we not all consciously, or unconsciously, experience God? God grows and learns through the human experience. God is not a perfect being, but a being in the act of perfection. Religion is what we think about what we experience. It is our framework of concepts concerning the nature and presence of God. The failure to distinguish between God and religion compels the religious practitioner to devote creative energy to promoting ideology, rather than to furthering the unity between humanity and the universe the founders of that ideology may have envisioned it to achieve. Two systems of economic belief dominate modern economic thought: socialism and capitalism. Both have their roots in the human move to an urban way of life. Both rest on the assumption that resources are limited, and human material wants are unlimited. From the standpoint of the universe as an evolution of consciousness, is the notion of intrinsic scarcity valid? Scarcity-based economics brought humanity to where it stands, but, in a creation where every human soul is a universe, and thus of intrinsic value, does scarcity-based economics have meaning? In today's global economy, do we slave to the false profit of socialistic and capitalistic ideology? Are socialism and capitalism obsolete? Central to contemporary environmental thought is the idea that, prior to civilization's ascent, the Earth was in a state of environmental correctness. And, as a consequence of civilization's ascent, we have thrown that state out of whack. In the mind of the contemporary environmentalist, the goal is to turn back the clock, to restore the Earth to the way it was, prior to human intervention. To accomplish this, we must step back, let nature take care of itself. Is the concept of nature relevant? With the threshold to reflection, did not life fall into evolution's trailing arrow? Does not the biosphere exist in support of evolution's leading edge, of the human quest to understand? Today, we witness human suffering around the world, and ask how much lack of vision the human spirit can endure. We face religious fundamentalism. We face scientific fundamentalism. We face economic fundamentalism. We face environmental fundamentalism. We experience the human potential left to rot by doctrines that serve the few, at the expense of solutions that benefit the many. When we look back at the course of evolution, we see the remarkable effect created by the acceleration of time. Cosmic formation lasted perhaps 10 billion years. Yet, it took less than 4 billion years for the universe to advance through the age of life. And in these 4 billion years, mammals emerged only about 225 million years ago, and the earliest member of the human line emerged only about 7 million years ago. Humanity crossed the threshold to reflection, and set out to comprehend itself and its world, a mere 100,000 years ago. We constructed the first settlements about 12,000 years ago, and invented modern science about 300 years ago. The forces of evolution have drawn in on themselves, to focus on a single point in time, the present. When we set aside our notions of a physical universe, we see creation in a way that is closer to its nature. We come to know the universe as an entity of consciousness, driven to advance to its ultimate form of existence. We recall its beginning in a state of emptiness. We look with wonder on its evolution. As we do, we find ourselves transformed. No longer are we merely a being, who is self-aware. No longer are we merely a creature, who is conscious of its own consciousness, endowed with the ability to ponder and contemplate. Our level of reflective consciousness becomes enwrapped within a higher level of awareness, a sentience of all time past, an internalization of evolution. Our awareness reaches out to embrace all that is the universe, and all that is the universe's evolution. We grasp the nature of existence as it was, as it has become, and as it will become. We understand who we are, and the purpose for our existence. We realize and accept our position, as at the forefront of the universe's advance. Through our self-realization, the universe comprehends itself. The universe, through humanity, crosses the threshold to meaning. Does not the uncertainty that grips today's world hold at bay the energy to thrust humanity across a creative threshold, to a new level of existence, to a new form of consciousness? As humankind transcends to meaning, will not every aspect of life change? With our look at the threshold to meaning, we complete session 13, in our course titled Evolution of Consciousness. We have the background to set forth into the universe's final era of evolutionary advance, the age of fulfillment. Our course titled Evolution of Consciousness continues in session 14, Perfection of Life on Earth.